Here?
Mr. Wallenhorst?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Ms. Muskie?
Here.
All right, so this is the public hearing. We have two items on here. First one is conditional zoning certificate constructed in addition to an existing accessory building. Is there anyone here from the public that wanted to speak? Are you the applicant or the?
Yes.
Okay, we're doing this public hearing to see if any public wants to comment, then we'll get into the regular meeting and have you come up, so. Just seeing, is there anybody here to speak for or against? Okay, doesn't look like it. The second one is Anything on Wheels Customs LLC requesting a conditional zoning certificate to permit retail sales in a limited industrial district. Anyone here from the public to speak to that? All right, guess not. With that, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and make sure, as long as we've got the applicants here, is there someone here for Chase? Just, which one are you guys here for back there?
I'm here for the National Church residents.
Okay,
Yeah, here for Chase.
you're here for Chase, okay, as long as we got applicants ready, we'll roll right into the regular meeting. So I'll call to order the regular Macedonia Planning Commission meeting for April 29th. Could we get a roll call?
Mr. Westbrook?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Wallenhorst?
Here.
Ms. Muskie?
Here.
Perfect. All right, first, approval of the March 18th, 2024 minutes. Anybody have any comments or corrections to the minutes?
I move that we approve them as submitted.
All right,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, the first item on our agenda is signage for Chase Bank. That's you?
Yeah,
Come on up, yeah. Can you get your name for the record?
yeah, my name's Michael Cave with Rough Neon Signs and Lighting Maintenance. I'm here, Jess couldn't make it,
Okay,
so I'm in her place.
okay. I mean, you're proposing the signs. I don't know if there's a whole lot that you need to go over, if we just want to jump into.
Yeah, do you have any questions?
I know we
I'm
start.
here to answer them.
All right, I know planner has comments on this. Go ahead and
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report dated March 30th. The applicant's requesting to construct, applicant being Chase Bank, requesting to construct a just under, erect essentially, a just under 20 square foot panel sign that's going to go into the existing ground monument sign that shared with Panda Express, and so there's no concern there. And then there are 4 wall signs being proposed, one on the north, south, east, and west elevation. North, south, and east are all just under 20 square feet, just over 25 square feet with the incidental portion of the logo included. And then the west building elevation is the ATM sign, which the size is unknown. The total permissible area is 132 square feet for the property. And if you include the incidental portion of the logo, they're just a hair over 95 square feet. So there's no concern on the area, so they can be approved as submitted. And I just noted that the the sign on the ATM is fine on the wall sign there. But as such, then that western elevation would not be able to receive any additional signage should they ever come back and want to have an extra sign on that wall. The ATM sign would count for that. I can answer any questions you have.
You guys have any questions on this? No? Anything you need to add, or?
Do we need to confirm the ATM size? Do you need the ATM sign size?
Sure, it'd be good just for the record. It's probably only a couple square feet at most.
Do you have that?
You want square footage?
Yeah.
So it's 87 by 54? Or do you just want the signage or the whole ATM?
Just the sign. Here,
Just the
can
sign
you
on top.
confirm? Can you confirm it's under 36 square feet?
Oh, yeah.
I would agree with you.
Yeah. It's
So
a
I think
6
that's
by,
fine.
roughly a 6 by 2.
Yeah.
So
It'd be like Vegas.
Yeah, it's
10 to 12 feet, 10 to 12 square feet
Okay.
at the most.
That's probably it.
Works for me.
Move we approve as submitted, I guess.
All right, is there a second? All right, I guess second, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Slam dunk.
Mr. Chairman, may I just ask a question?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
On that property, there are two plywood signs. They've been there for a while, they're weather beaten. Can those be taken down, please?
Who, what's on the
They're
signs?
right along the main road there. There's two plywood, they're temporary signs, there's no sign at all right now, they're just there.
They're just pieces of plywood?
Correct, yeah.
I don't know who would be responsible for that. I don't know if the landlord or, I didn't see any in the designs.
Yeah, I was just there a couple days ago and I noticed that
They're just pieces of plywood, no signage on.
there's two posts, like 4x4, and there's this piece of plywood that at one point I imagined that it was holding some signs, but there's no sign in it now. It just exposed plywood, so
Yeah,
they're,
it might have been like a future home of Chase Bank. and then-
probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we could pass that on.
I can.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. I didn't, it must be really invisible to my eyes. I didn't see them on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
that-
let's look at
I didn't
this.
see them on any of the preliminary photos I got. Because usually I do, if there's any kind of weird thing going on.
I've talked to the contractor too there, asked him to take it down, but just in case it doesn't, so I don't know. It may be the owner responsibility, whoever, but if it is, just let me know, then I'll call the owners. But somebody should take it down, because they're pretty ugly, honestly.
Yeah, it's
Thank
an
you.
eyesore, right? I agree.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I'll look on the photos and just mark it.
Appreciate it.
When
Thank
they're
you.
out there to bring it down.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right.
That's the one.
Anything else I can do?
Yes, all good.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is signage for Teslamen at 585 Highland Road. Is there someone here? Hi, come on in. Good. How are you? Get your name for the record.
My name is Fibris Al Muqdad. I am the owner of Testament.
All right. So on this one, okay. You're just proposing some signage.
Yes, sir.
So what, I'm just curious, what is Testament? Is it a?
So we're a body shop essentially. So we just do rectifications for the manufactured Tesla. So that's mainly our niche. We also do other manufactured vehicles. Mainly just a Highline shop. That's what our goal is essentially. But our specialty and our niche is just Teslas mainly. So.
Okay, interesting, cool. All right, Ms. France, you want to go over your comments?
Sure, Mary. Report dated March 30th. The applicant's proposing, in the limited industrial district, proposing a 2x18, 36 square foot wall sign comprised of red LED channel letters. Section 117903F2, Plain Zoning Code permits 2 square feet of identification signage for each lineal foot of building frontage. Building frontage in this instance for the tenant space is 50 feet, so 100 square feet of identification signage is permitted. Therefore, the sign area complies with limitations of the code and can be approved as submitted.
Great. You have any?
No, thank you.
Anybody have any questions on this one? Pretty easy one.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Motion
All right,
to approve.
okay, motion.
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thanks for
Easy,
being
yeah,
here.
thank you.
Thank you guys. God bless.
All right, next is a request for a conditional zoning certificate to construct an addition on an existing accessory building at 781 Ledge Road. Is there somebody? All right, come on down. Can you get your name for the record?
Yes, Anthony Fosselman.
All right. Yours is a little more complicated than the sign, so if you want to give us just an overview of what you're planning to do here.
Yep, so in the rear of my property, I currently have a 32 by 40 pole barn that was built by the previous owners. I'm looking to put an expansion on it for the current elevation, so extend it basically 16 feet to continue the length of the pole barn, and then add a lean-to on the east side. So I know the report had a few items that was sent that were questions. One was the setback. So on the southwest corner of the building, of the existing building, that would be the closest edge to the adjacent property. That's currently at 23 feet. I did not mark that on the the drawing, but it currently sits at 23 feet. The additions would be farther away from that because it does kind of angle away from the property.
Okay.
And then the other item that was concerned was the max height. So the current building currently sits at 17 foot 3 inches. I know the maximum is 15 feet. So I guess I'd be looking for guidance from you guys if I could submit a variance because the existing buildings are in there, or if I have to make the addition shorter than that.
You said it's how tall?
17 foot 3 inches.
Okay.
So from the rear of the property to the next neighbors is over 400 feet of wooded area. So it is in the rear. You wouldn't be able to see really the addition from the street view. So that goes into consideration when you would be seeing it or back to neighbors.
All right. Okay. Prince, you want to go over your comments? Some might have been answered here.
Sure. Report dated March 30th. The applicant laid out the request, which is an additional 512 square feet of storage area to the existing 1,280 square foot pole barn, and then with just under 900 square feet of lean-to. So if approved, the structure would be 1,792 square feet in total. The lot's fairly large, almost 4 acres, and in the R1 residence district. As the applicant outlined, he was referring to my report, which talked about the site plan. It doesn't dimension the setback, doesn't provide a scaled site plan, but it sounds like the minimum is 10 feet between the structure and the side lot line. Sounds like you have that with no problem. I'd still recommend you just put that onto a scaled site plan.
Okay.
So the building department maintains the records for the city, and a couple years from now or 10 years from now when we're not around, somebody comes back and they want to look in the records. It's just good to see it in there and to scale what's being done. The maximum height issue. So the height of the accessory building is proposed to be 17 feet 3 inches to the top of the roof peak and 12 feet to the bottom of the roof. The way the code reads, it says it can't exceed, it shall be 15 feet or the height of the main building, whichever is less. So what I don't know is what's the height of the main building, and then the whatever less part, the 17.3, the way the building height measurement definition works, and I can read you that from the code. If you can document that you comply with the building height based on the definition, it may not be an issue. If it is, then you would have to go seek a variance. That's not from this group, it's from the Board of Zoning Appeals. So I can read that real quick for you. Find it. Okay, so height of the building is, it means the vertical distance to the highest point of the coping of the street wall in the case of a flat roof, and to the mean height between the eaves and the ridge in the case of a pitched roof, measured from the finished grade. So if you can meet that definition, you may not need anything. But if you don't, then the commission would have to approve it subject to, should they want to approve it, and you'd have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So just to clarify, so not the mean height between the eave and the top?
From the finished grade.
So basically the middle of it is what we're saying? Okay. I can remeasure that, so I might be within 15 feet.
Yeah, so what I would recommend to the commission is, I think, and then the last item in my report was the grading plan. I felt it's a pretty good size structure overall, you're adding a decent amount of square footage to it, but I defer to the city engineer in terms of, drainage, what the roof drains look like, where you're planning to daylight them, but maybe something that you need a little grading plan for, but again, defer to the city engineer.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the size of the project is below the threshold for our stormwater management code, so that doesn't come into play. We just need positive drainage away from the structure, and what do you plan to do with the downspouts, if there are any on this lean-to? I don't know.
So I was just going to extend what we currently have. So the elevation kind of goes north into the west a little bit. There's a old Christmas tree farm next to me, so it all kind of runs into the Christmas tree farm.
Yeah.
So I was just going to extend that 16 feet, basically.
Was that on your property or on?
Yes, yeah, it would be on my property.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Provided it's on your property, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments besides that, Joe?
That's all I have.
Anything? Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like, I think that the setback is okay. The other thing, we need to confirm, or you need to confirm that you're in compliance with the height requirements, that definition. Do you guys have questions on this? Anybody down here?
Can we approve it, subject to administrative approval?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Why don't you're good at that one.
Make a motion to approve, subject to administrative review of the compliance with the height restriction.
And the side, isn't there a side to?
I think he's got that covered.
That's okay.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
So I guess, yeah, so as long as you could provide something that they submit it back to the building department, as long as they give it the thumbs up, then you should be approved. If they don't approve it, then that's when you gotta go to the BZA, so it won't be
Okay.
approved. So we'll leave it in your hands to get something to them.
Do you have the exact, I guess the code or the
Code
section?
section, yeah, it's, I think I know it off the top of my head, 113302, definition 14.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, good to go as long as you get that in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is anything on wheels, requesting a conditional zoning certificate to permit retail sales in LI Limited Industrial District, 9100 Valley View Road, Unit F. Is there someone here for that?
Huh.
There's not. I don't know, since we're kind of running ahead, maybe we'll come back to them, is that, instead of just discussing with them, so let's come back to that. Then next would be Ground Up, proposing to construct a storage building at 1411 East Twinsburg Road. Anybody here for that? No, kind of throwing it off, I think, by being ahead of schedule. We were supposed to just start.
Usually doesn't
Hey,
happen.
Chairman, it's 5:30. They should have been here, right?
True. Let's see, they were yes.
Mr. Westbrook, if you want to deal with the, I feel like the anything on wheels is a
Yeah,
real easy
we could
case.
just do it.
I think so.
Okay.
It's up to you guys, but.
Yeah, let's do it. If you think that's good to go, we'll do the anything on wheels, conditional zoning certificate. Mr. France, you want to go over your thoughts on this?
Sure, my report dated March 31st. So the applicant's requesting occupancy of a tenant space located at 9100 Valley View Road, Unit F. The zoning for that particular property is limited industrial zoning classification. The applicant's in that occupancy of Unit F desires to use about 30% of the floor space for retail sales of items related to their primary business, which is customization of motorcycles and cars. The limited industrial zoning district conditionally permits retail businesses and outlines 4 sort of qualifications, how you can fall under a retail business with a conditional zoning certificate in the LI district. First being, generally sell a single product line requiring a large floor area for the product or service sold. Second being, is a business occupying or intending to occupy an existing industrial business. The third, does not generally need to associate for marketing purposes with other retail businesses in a shopping center environment. And then the last being, are deemed by the planning commission to be compatible with the other uses permitted in the district. However, the primary business that we're talking about here is not a retail business. Their primary business, again, is customization of motorcycles and cars. My opinion, that primary business most closely relates to either industrial services, which is codified ordinance 116903B1, or repair, finishing, and finishing services, codified ordinance 116903B5. It's really probably more the industrial service, 6903B1, which are both permitted uses in the limited industrial district. So when they're permitted use, this type of a scenario would be an accessory use to that. So section 116903D2 applies in this instance, I believe, accessory uses in the LI district, which would allow this incidental retail sales. So I believe either way you look at it, you should approve the request, but I think it's just a determination it's an accessory use and approve it that way.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? Thoughts, Nino? No. All right, you guys have questions?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I tend to go with Mr. Francis' recommendations. Make a motion to approve.
I second that.
All in favor?
And Mr.
Oh.
Westbrook, just, I think I heard you say in your motion, motion to approve the request as an accessory use pursuant to 116903 D2 of the Planning and Zoning Code, which specifically calls out retail sales areas as an accessory use.
Make sure Susan caught everything I said there.
I heard you say it too.
Yeah, I heard it loud and clear.
Approve the request, what? Sorry.
1169.
Yeah, I got that.
Yep, to D3 as a retail sales area as an accessory use.
Yeah.
This way, it's just clear in the record why you took the action you took as
Okay.
opposed to the request that was in front of you tonight.
Excellent. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, good recommendation, Justin. Good.
That's a good job.
Now, is the ground up a little more difficult? You probably want somebody here for
I
that
think it's
one.
one that you need an applicant
Yeah,
here
okay.
to talk to.
And nobody here is from ground up, correct, yet? Okay. All right, next is National Church residents requesting a conditional zoning certificate for proposed senior citizens residential facility in a B2 business. And I know there's people here. Yeah. Oh, that's right, okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, the Planning Commission member is recusing herself because there's a financial involvement in the project for her primary business. And so, as a member of the commission, recusing yourself and leaving the dais and going out into the audience.
Thank you.
You might have been a few others.
Bring, yeah. Line up as many as you want. I wouldn't mind. You guys mind if we crack the door over here?
I was thinking the same
If you wanna
thing.
ask the fire marshal if you can answer that door.
You allowed to do this
I got Rich's permission.
before you pass out, is that okay?
Now, where was this when it was freezing in the room earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Somebody must have complained about it being cold, right?
January,
So,
February.
I'll show them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Sorry about this. If you'd come in December, it's 12 degrees. in here.
Yeah, it would have been warmer than
Remember
here.
this when it goes to 30 degrees around?
You think it's gonna happen?
No.
I'll watch it get low there.
Yeah, your easels made up, yeah.
Foam boards off the easels.
Shedding layers. If you'd like to take your coat off, Pepper, so we know you showed up formal, but you get credit for dressing up, but. Thank you very much. Dressing up for us.
I'll give him a point a little bit. It's nice.
So you gotta stay in your jacket.
Because he doesn't have a tie on, right?
Right,
Yeah.
that's the other way to keep it.
Do something around here. Help this team.
All right, that didn't help a whole lot, but maybe it'll keep it from getting.
By the time we're done.
Yeah. Would you guys like to give an overview of what's occurred since the last time? A lot of data you guys provided. Yeah, that counts. That's good point, extra points.
I'll just begin by,
I'm sorry, can we get your name?
name is Benjamin Ochner, O-C-K-N-E-R, and it's Burns Ochner and Greenberger. We represent National Church Residences. And I have with me this evening Kevin Brown and a number of other folks from National Church Residences who will answer your questions and give you some information about our proposal. Basically, we're asking for a conditional use permit to allow a 54-unit senior independent living development on, I think it's on Valley View Road, adjacent to, or at its intersection with State Route 8, in accordance with section 1167.08 of your zoning code. Want to express appreciation for Mr. Franz's thorough analysis of this. When I look at your code, it seems that we meet all of your setbacks and other requirements. There is an issue with parking that we will talk about, other people besides me will talk about. And on the theory that the people who are on the ground and really doing all the hard work have a lot more, I won't say credibility, but a lot more value to the process than just the lawyer. I'll turn it over to Mr. Brown to take you through what we've got.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Chair Westbrooks, for the opportunity to present this project once again. As you may recall, I was here on February 13th. It was a little bit different weather at the time, but appreciate the opportunity to come back. My name is Kevin Brown. I'm Director of Senior Housing Development with National Church Residences. I can provide the address if need be.
No.
Well, since our last presentation on the 13th, we've added much more information that was seemed to be lacking, as Mr. Franza pointed out in our previous submission, lacking the details and the substance necessary to meet the requirements of the zoning code. So since that time, we've enhanced our package, and now we've submitted what I would call a more complete package that meets the requirements of the zoning code, seeking a conditional zoning certificate for the proposed senior housing use. So we are proposing, as Mr. Ochner stated, the development of a new senior residential facility on the east side of State Route 8, accessed from Valley View Road. The property does not currently have an address, but it's immediately adjacent to the Northwood Lanes Bowling Center. I think that's what it's at 10435 Valley View Road. And the proposed project is for seniors age 55 and up, living independently. Really, our goal is to create a welcoming home for seniors while enhancing the housing options for the elderly in the surrounding community. And with that, I'm going to walk around a bit because I like to talk to boards. Kind of a nice crutch to bring with me, and I'm hoping you guys can see them. So I was going to talk to the site plan a bit. So the site plan, which you may have seen, and just to be clear, north is on the right-hand side, State Route 8, Valley View Road here. The 54-unit facility is located on a triangular shaped piece of property, as you can see. It is accessed by way of a private drive and a shared drive. Now, it's probably a little hard to see, but we've graded the area where the shared driveway will be located. It's currently a shared driveway now between the dentist office and the bowling alley up to this point. And we understand that shared driveways are not allowed. That's what I learned at the last meeting. So we will be working to discuss that in more detail coming up here. Mr. Baldwin from Bramhall Engineering is going to speak in a few minutes about the shared driveway, the access, and some of the questions that arose from that. So on the site plan, we include 55 parking spaces as shown here. As you probably know, that is insufficient to meet the parking requirements of 125 spaces per apartment. So we will have to seek a variance for that reduction in parking. And Ms. Cahill from Bramhall Partners, our architectural firm, will talk about that in a little more detail later. But I'll let her talk about the reserved parking as well coming in here. But we do have 55 parking spaces. In our experience, one parking space per unit is more than enough to meet the senior housing need. In addition to the parking, we do have a circular drop-off area in front of the entry. This will allow easy access for seniors to be dropped off, or for senior transportation choices like vans and different types of vehicles to come in and easily pick up and drop off seniors who may not or may not want to drive all the time. The site's outdoor amenities, just to kind of point that out because it's an important component of something that's making a really nice living environment. We do include some garden areas. We do include a patio off what will be the community room on the ground floor, so that's going to spill out from the inside to the outside. And we include a sidewalk or walking paths that go all the way around the entire building to allow people to kind of do laps or get some exercise that way if they do choose. The landscaping is reflected here, and you've seen the other plans that show the landscaping. Certainly our goal, it's not the easiest, but we are trying to maintain as much of the vegetation as we can around the buffer to the west and to the north. That does become a bit of a challenge given the amount of detention basins that we have to include in the site. So the building is also located in compliance with all the required setbacks from the north property line and from the east property line, and also from State Route 8. It's hard to see on here, but on the plans that you probably have with you, you've seen there's a dashed in triangular shape that defines the buildable area that complies with the easements. The building itself will include a community room with a warming kitchen, a fitness room, multi-purpose room, laundry, service coordinator office, and on-site property management. The apartments are one-bedroom units. They have a full kitchen, full bath. They're in compliance with the minimum square footage requirements. And they will have, even in addition to the laundry room, we will be supplying washers and dryers in all apartments. As I mentioned, the building is a 3-story structure. The elevations over here are really representative of the material palette that we're proposing. A lot of brick, as you can see on the elevations, with other siding options. So I did want to spend a few minutes talking about the benefit of this development to the community. And this is something I was challenged by the mayor when I first met him to talk about how this property proposal will benefit the community. So overall, certainly we think the development does meet the need for local senior housing as we've kind of seen it or have studies to prove it out. The overall population of Macedonia is pretty static. It's not growing, but your senior population is growing pretty rapidly. In 5 years' time, your senior population will grow by 12% in the city of Macedonia. So that's an increase of over 22, it's an increase of nearly 1,000 seniors just in the city of Macedonia. In the market area, it's a much larger number of seniors that will be in the primary market area that we'll be serving. There are no comparable senior-only housing options within 5 miles of the site. To kind of say that another way, there are no age-restricted housing options within 5 miles of this location comparable to what's being developed. And I do want to define that because, as you know, there are some congregate care facilities that are close, actually pretty close to our location here, so certainly within the 5-mile radius. But how we differ from congregate care facilities is this is an independent living building for active adults. So while those congregate care facilities may be providing assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, palliative care, really housing that's focused on acute issues for people at their end of their life, this housing is really more like an apartment style living. While we will be talking about the services provision that we're offering, we're not offering health care, we're not offering meal service, we're not offering housekeeping services. So just want to make that distinction between what we're offering versus a congregate care setting. The proposed senior housing, I'm sorry, one item I didn't mention. We did include a market study that was provided in the information that was submitted to the city that really helped demonstrate the need, and that we feel very confident in the marketplace to support the housing that's being proposed. So I know that was reviewed. Mr. Franz took a look at that, but if there's any questions about that, we can address them. And the proposed development is designed to serve seniors of varying income levels. So the units in the building will be restricted to those earning up to 70% of the area median income. And what that means today is the housing, you have to make less than $53,480 for a two-person household to qualify for the housing. So that covers a lot of folks in Macedonia who don't know really. What the market study showed us is that these rents really do work well for the area. As the study provided, senior renters aged 55 and older earning up to $50,000 are projected to comprise more than half of all senior renters in 2029. So I think we're bringing this housing on at a particularly good time to serve your senior housing in Macedonia and also the immediately surrounding communities. So the approvals that we're seeking tonight and that we need, the site is located in a B2 community shopping district, but that does allow senior citizen residential facilities are conditionally permitted within that district when the requirements set forth in section 1167.08 of the zoning code are satisfied. So we'll get into this more, but we will be asking for your approval of the submission that we made earlier and presenting tonight. So there are a number of issues that were brought up in the planning memo from Mr. Franz. I do appreciate the review. He did let us know or state that we substantially addressed the issues that he raised previously with our, let's say, incomplete application. By providing a more complete application, meaning the sense of good, I think we addressed a number of the concerns that were raised. But there are 4 issues that he raised in there, including the insufficient number of parking spaces to meet zoning code, fire department vehicle access, landscaping plan if we were to change the parking, and driveway access. And tonight I am fortunate, Jenny's ready to jump out of her chair, but I'm fortunate to have a number of my colleagues here with us to help explain some of the project parameters and address some of these conditions specifically. They're my subject matter experts, let's say. So I'm going to ask Jenny Cahill. She's with Berardi Partners. She's a project manager and really the architect in charge of this project to speak to the parking rates.
I thought I just wanted to stand closer to the breeze over here. So the variance that we'll be requesting, after we get the conditional use tonight, we're going to immediately start working on our variance application for parking. Brian, one of the things that I wanted to talk to in your response is that we are showing that the parking could be provided. So, why would we ask for a variance if the parking could be provided? So I wanted to speak to that. We've got 55 parking spots that we'd like to provide. The building has 54 units. So that would be more than a 1-to-1 ratio. And obviously we do have the room over here, but we are tight on the site with all of the proposed detention basins. And we would prefer to leave more of the existing tree buffer here between State Route 8 and our property. So that's one reason we're just kind of seeing that
Thank you.
Based on our tenants, and how they use the parking, how they use cars, a lot of them rely on other methods of transportation. We talked about having to turn around for buses and other vehicles that can pull up and take seniors to their appointments. We just don't see that on our properties that they've got the need for this many parking spaces, and we don't want to overbuild it. It's not good design. Better to provide a tree buffer and leave the site undeveloped. It also helps with stormwater, obviously, to have more pervious surfaces. So that's what I wanted to speak to. But if we, for some reason, did not get the variance, it is possible on our site to meet the code. So we wanted to show that as well. And obviously, if we did build out these 26 parking spaces, we would meet the landscaping requirements for those as well.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah,
Do you have a question?
So,
now, or-
yeah, I do actually have a question. So you had mentioned that you guys don't offer certain services such as shuttle and busing and stuff like that, but I believe you had just said that you guys do offer that. So I guess kind of it seems like there's two different things. Which one is it? Do you provide shuttle services for?
No, we don't provide shuttle services, but we know there's services in other communities and some, I don't know if Macedonia Senior, actually, doesn't Macedonia Senior Center do have some dial ride services like that?
And they have programs here, but I don't believe they offer shuttle services to them. I could be wrong.
No, you're right.
I have a question kind of in line with that. You said that you don't have a dining facility such as the two nursing homes
That's right.
right next door to us here. And so wouldn't your people have to drive more
Yeah,
than the people in those type of nursing homes?
that's
I
what I
would
was
say
gonna
more,
ask.
yes. Yeah, I would say more.
Active
The other thing
adults.
is that these are all one-bedroom units, so there's just not a lot of,
But he said that this type of facility, people don't really drive that much, but maybe they do if there's no dining facilities there, and it's a little different than the regular nursing home, eh?
I would say probably more of them are driving than the nursing homes for sure, but still, I think we've seen that it's less than municipalities.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly if we wanted to talk about traffic generation, we can, but you know, our experience is that seniors, yeah, we will have seniors that will be driving. Some may still be working, can't say for sure.
You're right.
But they will largely learn when, if we're talking about traffic generation, they will avoid peak hours because they don't need to drive during rush hour.
You'd prefer not to try for a variance on that parking business? You'd prefer to use your own site for the parking?
Yeah, well, certainly we think we have enough spaces
Yeah.
to meet the need, and this is based upon our experience. And I didn't go into this tonight because I spent a fair bit of time talking about our company last time I was here, and it was necessary. My company has 110 properties in Ohio alone serving seniors, so we have a pretty vast experience
Yeah.
in a lot of different environments, be it urban, suburban, and rural, on what kind of housing is really, or excuse me, what parking ratios we need. Our experience at this location, a 1-for-1 parking ratio is going to be more than enough parking. In a lot of other settings, we're providing 0.6 spaces per unit. A lot of it depends on what transportation is available. So we feel pretty good about it, but part of what our presentation was tonight to demonstrate to you as you're considering the conditional zoning certificate is that even if we were unable to get the variance, we can still provide the required amount of parking to meet the zoning code.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess that's good to know that you can do it. We can't approve, you do have to get it from the BZA and another body, but yeah, it's good to understand that you can provide that. But I know, you might as well jump in some of this, but Ms. France, you had a comment about access to that parking area, and if you want to at least discuss that.
That's a great segue because we have Tom Baldwin from Graham Hall Engineering and Surveying to talk about that topic right now. So Mr. Franz, if you want to speak, please.
Explain your.
Sure, yeah, so I think if, you've demonstrated you can meet the parking demand on this property, so your desire to have less parking is a different issue. So you've demonstrated you can do it on this site, so let's just assume for a minute that maybe you can't get a variance. And so if you can't get a variance, you're going to put it here in the location as shown. And that location is just difficult for, I think, an older population to navigate. And I just raised that issue of, are there going to be safety precautions, safeguards in place to get people from the door, which for all intent purposes, I think is, I don't know, 300 or 400 feet away to the closest, or to the furthest parking spot. What precautions will be in place to safely get them?
Yeah, no
Assuming,
sidewalk.
yeah, no sidewalk. So I'm assuming you're salting and you're taking care of Northeast Ohio winters, but where are they going for safe travel outside of the lane of travel is really my concern.
So I'll say a couple things and then Tom, I can actually kind of speak a little bit to that.
Sure.
So part of the space that we have available on this side, on the State Route 8 side, is a walk. Is a sidewalk that will kind of come back and have, turn 90 degrees and tie into kind of this island closure, so they will have a safe, accessible, ADA accessible walkway to get to the doorway. Maintenance, maybe a little salting, and what would be necessary to kind of provide a safe path. And we would have a plowing contract as well for the driveway and the parking lot. I would say, again, we're viewing that as unnecessary parking, so if we were to build that parking, I don't think we're gonna see use in that area, that people will park in the main parking lot.
Well, I would say that, there's a lot of speculation in that. I mean, we respect that you have this experience, but our code defines more parking, and so our job, this commission's job, is to provide those safeguards and conditions such that should you not get that variance, and this gets constructed, we have a safe way for seniors. I think you're gonna have an elderly population. They don't get around as easy. I know my dad and mom fall around a lot, so we want to be safe in how they get there. We want precautions in place. I think you're going to probably end up using that parking. And so how are we going to get them there safely and securely across a lane of travel? Are you going to put in I see what appears to be sidewalk, assuming there's ADA curb ramps and things associated with that. We can assume those things.
Yes.
Are you going to put in a crosswalk, a rapid flashing beacon? I don't know what's needed or warranted, but I think it's just something you need to consider as you're moving an elderly population more than 400 feet or close to 400 feet from the front door to a parking spot.
Yeah, I think it's 325, that's what I think you quoted in.
330, assuming that was the front door. Yeah. You could tell us, I don't know what the answer is. What is that distance to the front door?
I think I measured it was like 325, like you
Okay,
said.
so it is, so I picked the right spot.
Good job.
Yeah.
I have a question, if I may.
Yeah.
For Mr. Franz. I didn't look very closely, and I forgot to look more closely before this evening. Does your code allow for land bank parking?
No, it doesn't. No, but effectively, that's what you're showing is essentially, you're demonstrating you can meet it on there and effectively land banking it in the sense that we're gonna ask for variance. And if we get the variance, it could be constructed if we ever needed to use it, so it's demonstrated it could be there. But the code doesn't permit land bank parking. It's shared use parking, but I don't think you're sharing with the bowling alley people. It's too far away, so.
I don't know if they want to share with us.
Yeah.
I've
Maybe
seen
not.
that bowling lot full many times before too, so.
Talking about the drive, so, as it currently stands right now, it's a 19-foot wide access drive, which I believe Mr. Franz commented and said it does not meet the current standard for an access drive. So we would improve the driveway, resurface it, make repairs, and bring it up to the current city standards. I'm working with the city engineer to do that. And then kind of transition it back to, before it enters the bowling alley property, and transition that back so in a smooth way so somebody's driving to the bowling alley, they're not just driving off the edge. We have a 24-foot wide access drive that goes back to the parking, to the circle, as Jane mentioned before.
So when you say we're gonna improve it and you're gonna resurface it, are you talking about a 3-foot expansion to make it 22 and then run a cap over top to bond it some way so it's all integral? How are you making it 22 feet?
So that could happen in a couple different ways. We could get some pavement cores, see what the existing asphalt depth is, repair, kind of go out and mark out somewhere full depth base repairs are needed to make sure that we don't have failures in those areas again. And then add a top coat surface, widen it where it needs to be, and then put a top coat so it's a nice clean surface. If we take in, as we're doing the pavement cores and doing the pavement, the analysis of the condition of the driveway, if it reaches a point of where it doesn't make sense to actually do base repairs, it would be a full tear out, rebuild to necessary pavement thickness per city standards.
And just more out of curiosity, why did you choose 24 feet as opposed to 22 feet?
To kind of provide a little bit of extra room for access down that way, down the road. 12-foot
The older
lanes.
folks who can't stay on the road, or?
Exactly.
I was just curious why you chose a different width, that's all. I mean, if you were going with 22 feet, to get to 22 feet from 19, you're adding 3 feet. Maybe it just makes sense to keep it at 22 feet, but that's, I rely on the expert in that instance.
Yeah, so I would say, thank you, Brian. Joe, city engineer, nice to meet you. Yeah, so I'll give you my take on this. What we're gonna wind up with here, what you're proposing, is really a private drive. 3 totally different properties and users are going to share. Okay, so I think that needs to be built to our typical private drive standards that are out there. We have many private subdivisions all around town. I've done recently did a little bit of homework on that. And almost all of them are either 24 or 25 feet in width. They all have concrete roll curb on both sides with under drain, catch basins, all as needed for drainage. And they're all built, well, some of them are concrete, but most of them are asphalt, and it's a 9-inch asphalt section. So the section really is a city standard section. The only, I guess, wiggle room we give to that is it can be 24 or 25 feet wide. A public road, they're all 27. So I think that's what's going to happen. And you brought up earlier that it might have to be a complete reconstruct. I'll let you do the research on that, but I have a feeling when you pull some pavement cores, you're going to wind up in a situation where it's a complete tear out and reconstruct. Is probably going to be the only way you can really do it.
We would want something that would obviously last.
And so would the other 2 property owners. And I guess the last thing I would add is there would need to be some sort of document in place for this private drive to memorialize the maintenance responsibility for this driveway between the 3 involved properties. Recorded plat or something.
There currently is a access easement already here.
Okay.
So it would be.
You could piggyback off of that perhaps.
Exactly.
There's an easement, and it does speak to maintenance, so.
Does that easement include your proposed parcel?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, we provided the sort of relevant easements with our submission to document. It actually shows up in 2 separate easements because, obviously the dentist office doesn't need to have access to the bowling alley. So there's access that gets to the dentist office, it's shared down from the dentist office to the bowling alley, and we have, this property has rights to both, along with the signage easement at Valley View Road, and the utility easements. It's kind of weird, but it's it parallels State Route 8 along the western edge of the dentist office.
So I'm not an expert on that, but it refers to it in the documents you submitted as access drive. If it's now going to become potentially a private drive, does that change anything in the easement?
I don't know, we'd have to take a look at it, to be honest with you, Jason.
Most likely
But-
not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, if we get to this point, we would have to have some sort of a review to make sure that the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, so to speak.
Yeah, because there's an upgrade provision in there, but it continues to refer to it as an access drive, so I just want to make sure that that doesn't become some type of legal sticking point and that gets messy for the city.
Well, I think that in that instance, it's not the city's issue. That's a
Yes.
private matter between those property owners, and they just have to solve it. When they
Okay.
solve it, they can come back and let us know.
Okay.
Yeah, future maintenance certainly wouldn't fall on the city. Either way, it's private, so we would just want to know that there is some agreement or document in place so that the private drive doesn't fall apart and nobody claims responsibility
Yeah,
to fix
precisely.
it.
Which is us.
Yeah, and then,
Which ends up being
then they
us,
come
yeah.
to us,
Yeah.
correct, you know, we can't have that.
The easement seems pretty well drafted. Well, Tom, I think, okay, well, thank you, Tom. Well, not an issue for planning, I did want to address another issue that's been raised here. So we understand there's concerns around the use of emergency services. And I thought it'd be helpful to bring sort of our subject matter expert to come in and talk through that a bit. Again, not a planning issue, wasn't mentioned in Mr. Franz's memo. So we have with us Jerry O'Rourke, Regional Director of Population Health with National Church Residences, and she's going to talk through this issue for a few minutes with you.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I guess I could stand up
You
too.
wanna-
I don't have any fancy
you wanna
boards or
sit here?
anything. No, I'm good, I can just stand up. And Kevin was kind of being shy, like, we're actually serve 40,000 seniors across the United States in 38 different states. So looking at subject matter experts, we look at service coordinators as filling that role in properties like this so that we can be as proactive as possible to make sure that we're ahead of what that senior might need. I know you mentioned transportation, food service. We actually do a fair number of resources for transportation assistance. If the senior is low enough income, they qualify for some of those assistance through the city or the town. But there's also Uber transportation, which we've all heard about. The local area agency on aging do a number of initiatives with local Uber companies that are now into food services as well. So there's a number of different either food pantries or different resources that we can actually bring into the facility, and this would be the same kind of a situation. The service coordinator would be assessing each and every individual to identify what they might be needing to proactively help them stay aging in place. You mentioned your parents following. This is a setting that we reduce falls significantly because they're no longer in maybe their home that has steps to go in, up and down the basement, things that we see a lot through our local EMS. Once a senior moves into one of the settings that we have, that is drastically reduced, and we track a lot of our information, and we have some data here to share. This was on the most equivalent sites that we currently have to this project. We took a look at 379 residents in this area. Over the last 12 months, the EMS response was recorded less than 1% of those residents, and it was a number of 2. ER-only events, which could involve an emergency service, was reported at 7, and that was less than 2% of those residents assessed. So it is significantly decreased, and so I'm happy to answer some questions if there are specific concerns that we can help address with that.
So what's the average age? I don't know if you know that in those
Yeah,
facilities?
the average age of our buildings can range anywhere from 62 to 90. And we track that. In some buildings, they are lower if they have adults with disabilities who meet the requirements. We do a number of different scales, evidence-based scales, to help monitor what our seniors are needing and what they're assessed to be needed. We have 66% out of a targeted 379 individuals who are assessed to be very low vulnerable, which means they're not at risk for falling, they're independent, they're not needing a lot of services, and so they're safe in their apartment. The ages range from under 35 with disability all the way up to 90.
So,
But just to be clear, someone under the age of 55 would not qualify in this building. That's a different housing setting.
Correct. So
Right,
this
yeah.
setting is 62 and up, Kevin?
55.
55 and up.
But you were talking about the emergency services, and that seems to be a relatively low number, but is there, I'd be surprised if you have this data right in front of you, but
Yeah.
the average age, are those more on the 55 side or more on the 90 side?
73.
It is, yeah, the average age is 73. Now, if you're asking specifically about those individuals, and this is out of this cohort of populations that we found to be fairly equivalent, but if you're asking about those individuals who are using the EMS, is it the 90-year-old or is it the 60-year-old? That, you would be surprised, is all over the place. It really depends on their level of health, their access to care. We have a lot of initiatives that bring the care to them, like a physician group that can come to the building and meet the seniors' needs where they're at. So we take a look at those high-risk needs. So I don't think age is as significant of a matter when you're using EMS services, because it depends on who that person is. And we do have data on chronic conditions.
It does. The concern though is I would assume it's reasonable to assume that someone more in the 55, 60 or so maybe won't need those services as much as someone in the 80 to 90. So I read through and paid really close attention to the part of your submission that talks about like the on-site service coordinator and all that. What happens if you have a resident who is needing a lot more care? There are an unusually large number of EMS calls. I mean, you can't just boot them out, can you?
We can't boot them out, but that's when we're really taking a look at proactively what's going on for that individual. Are they having more health changes? We bring the family in and we talk through what our options are. For example, that might be a reasonable situation that that person is no longer safe in that environment, and we really do talk with the healthcare system and proactively look at alternative options so that they're not at risk in that apartment. That often doesn't need to come to that, you know, at that time, on the mental health concerns, no matter where a senior is living, and we're again also proactively looking at how we address those before they become a concern.
I'm just concerned because my own personal experiences are I have a mother-in-law doesn't live in one of your facilities, but a similar facility in a different city, and they have a lot of these programs, but yet it seems like EMS is there multiple times a week for different things. I hear all about it for the residents talking when we visit, and that just concerns me I got it that you have statistics, but we're really not going to know what's going to happen until this potentially gets built and people move in, because then are we bringing a whole bunch of 50 and 60-year-olds that are a lot healthier, or are we bringing in a whole bunch of 80 and 90-year-olds, and you know, no one has control over what that's going to look like. And then the other thing is the fact that there's some subsidization here. You mentioned Uber and all that. Like, my personal opinion, grabbing an Uber around here for me is too expensive. Okay, so if we're maybe using it as one of the things to support for food and getting to the doctor and all that, someone who's on a fixed income that's potentially subsidized for housing, I would think that it would be even more cost prohibitive for those things.
Yeah, not as much as you think, because those are special programs that is monitored through the Center for Medicaid and Medicare as special grant programs that local area agency on aging actually accommodate. So it is more cost effective, and there's some tremendous tools. And I'm not saying that's going to be the only solution for this site, but there are more and more resources that are being identified. And the service coordinators are really those experts who are able to identify what's happening in the community to make sure that it meets the needs of what those seniors need. And you're right, we won't know until the seniors move in. We can't only take the healthy walking seniors, because that isn't fair housing.
Yep.
But I feel very strong that seniors in these buildings are much safer, and they have they can age in place better than if they're in their home and they're aging in place and they don't have the resources to help them.
Agreed, but my concern is, okay, they're great now, and then 5 years from now, they're not. And then they're still there, and then that in the future is taxing. You mentioned an online care management tool. Can you speak to that? Like, what is that? How does that work? What does it do?
Yeah, this is an evidence-based. We take a lot of different, from other experts from Center for Medicaid and Medicare, other service coordination associations who have perfected these, and actually like gerontology studies that use evidence-based falls, loneliness scales, vulnerability scales. And so each service coordinator works on those scales with the resident to identify what they're at most risk for. So if they have several chronic conditions and they have high blood pressure, diabetes, other health issues, they're going to work on a plan to help keep them safe. And so we've done a lot of initiatives to help tailor specific programs for certain buildings that might have those higher risk depending on the environment.
Does the tenant participate
Yes.
online in that, or is
Nope,
it?
it's one-on-one with the service coordinator, and it's optional. The individual doesn't necessarily have to do it. We do encourage them to, so we can help them stay safer and age in place in that building. But it's a face-to-face, person-centered process.
Okay. I've
Kevin?
kind of hijacked the questions. Do you guys have any other
They're good
questions?
questions.
Kevin, I have kind of a proposal. Do you think we could approve this, conditionally approve it, subject to their statement that they're going to widen the driveway as Mr. France wanted, and subject to a stipulation they're going to put a sidewalk in there so they can have the parking the way they want it, and we would have that administratively approved along with our motion to approve it as is. As for their business plan, I mean, they do this, so I'd go along with, like they know what they're doing for senior citizens. But I think we could, subject to administrative approval.
There's another.
Well, I don't know what Mr. France thinks about that, but they're going to widen the driveway and make it so, fire trucks can get down there and all that, and everybody else can. And it's a private road anyway. And that we would stipulate that they put that sidewalk in to alleviate the problem of old people having to walk so far to get to the building. And I think based on that, they conditionally approve. What do you think?
I guess I want to see what other issues, what other comments, is there stuff that we haven't gotten to? From you guys?
Yeah, so my report and the applicant mentioned about fire vehicle access to the north and east building elevation. So I think that warrants a discussion. One item that I noted in my my markup of the site plan that I did not transfer into my report is, it's a minor item, but the lots will need to be combined. So if approved, you'll need to combine those through a consolidation plat, which is submitted as a separate application to the planning commission. But that's a little bit of semantics at that point. For a consolidation plat, yeah. You have to come back here anyhow. So if you get approval tonight, you're coming back here for site development plan, and at that time, you could do the consolidation plat. It's just a separate application.
Okay.
It's important, but it's not that big of a deal.
We will have to do for financing anyway, so it's, we are already planning to do that consolidation.
Good. And that was all I had in my report.
Before we go any further, you were about to make comment on our discussion on healthcare. I didn't know if there was something else you wanted to add.
Well, just that the properties that we surveyed were the most comparable. We serve a lot of different property types, so we do market rate housing that's somewhat like the assisted living and independent living and memory care buildings you have around here, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. We have large towers that we work with housing authorities on, we manage. I mean, we have a lot of different types of housing, but this is a independent living, 55 and up building, new construction, no subsidy. I mean, this is just a very specific type of property. I just wanted to point that out because we do have different experiences based upon the tenant population. The other,
but is it really is it really all that relevant? I mean, do people who make less money use services, healthcare services more than somebody who's a market rate occupant? I don't think it's an issue. You've provided data, and the data is regardless of the income level, in my opinion.
And the other issue, it's probably not as important, but when you're reducing fall risk, I mean, we have zero-step entry into the building, zero-step entry in all apartments. We have zero-step showers for all the units. I mean, so this is something we do take pretty seriously, is the safety of our residents.
But that's no difference than a lot of the other ones around this area too. They don't have 0 steps.
But it is different than a single-family home, and I think it's the point that Jerry was trying to make.
In your study too for the market, did you include the new Sagamore development that's going on down the road that I mentioned the last time? Because there is a large amount of units that are very similar to what you're proposing going in down there. So how does that affect your market study?
See if it's in here.
I didn't see
I
it.
don't know the name of that place.
They have missed it, yeah.
That's a good question, Scott.
It's under construction right now, so, I mean, I had mentioned it the last time, and I was hoping to see it in the study, and I did not. I could have missed it, but I feel that's really important because there's a lot more than what you're proposing down there that I feel like is gonna be in direct competition with what you're doing here.
It
So
should be in
that
there, because
point-
one of the tasks of the
our role,
market
though, to
study
decide
analysts
whether
is
they got a
call
good
local
idea?
planning departments to
I
determine
don't
if
think
properties
so.
are in development or under construction.
Say that again?
If it was under construction, it would have been included, because that's one of the tasks of the market study analysts is they identify properties that are under construction, which is pretty easy to identify, and they also reach out to local planning departments to determine if anything's under consideration in development prior to going into construction. And I'm sorry, I don't have the entire market study with me tonight, I'd have to pull it up on my laptop to review that.
I think they need to reevaluate that, or I think they need to make sure they take that into account, because it's not, from what I read, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see it in there.
Yeah, that could be significant, huh, Scott?
Yeah.
The other thing was brought up was the fire access.
Yeah, requirements for the fire access, the fire lines, the fire hydrants that are required, access to the east side of the building.
What type of access to the east side of the building?
Right now, they've got a walking path. At this point in time, our first response would be with the aerial tower. And at this point, we can only get to half of the windows in the complex. Less than half, because we don't need to use the first floor, they can step up. But
Yeah, that second and third floor is the concern.
second and third floor on the back side, I mean, the city provides the equipment, and we really shouldn't build something that we can't use our equipment on. The north side, we should be able to get, I think it was 150-foot access around the north side, which should be covered from either side no matter what. So the north side should be no problem. It's just the east side.
Is there much of a parking lot that goes around the back of the bowling alley? I'm not sure.
I was just gonna, actually.
No.
I think the bowling alley was built long before we ever bought an aerial tower.
If it is, it's probably more gravel than
Yeah, I'm sure it's
asphalt
not
at this
very
point.
good.
But at this point in time, any of our other seniors living,
Yeah, it's
we have access all the way around.
Would a grass paver type situation work? Kind of like
It's gotta be, there's minimums for it, like 26-foot wide, other than parking spaces.
You're talking about a ladder truck back
Yeah,
there.
a ladder truck.
I mean, I understand the 26-foot wide driveway, but the material for that, would that be gravel, pavement?
No, that would be pavement, concrete,
You would like asphalt or concrete?
asphalt or concrete. Turning radiuses, in and around the parking lot.
That circle is 24 feet wide. If you needed to take the longest truck, presumably the ladder truck, past that circle, can it get through that circle?
We can get through it.
Okay.
Somewhere around the cul-de-sacs, usually put 50-foot requirement, 55 feet, somewhere between there, or cul-de-sac. Somewhere.
Even with the tree or something?
I believe your fire truck cul-de-sac radius is 46 feet, if I recall.
Does that account for landscaping in the center of the circle? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, normally there's nothing in the middle. I
There's
remember
some-
Donnie Bell sharing
Yeah,
that
there-
with
there's
everyone.
some we can't get all the way around without backing up and hoping someone's driveway is clear.
Or how would you get all the way back? You wouldn't be able to, you'd have to back out of the queue to go all the way down that side to get to the
At
north
this
side.
point in time, if it takes us 10 minutes to back out, you know, our response time, we're supposed to be there within 6 to 8 minutes. It's gonna be 4 minutes before we get out the door.
So just so I understand, talking about backing out, is that a
After
concern getting to
after
the
anything
fire?
is said, after anything is said and done, or we're cleaned up, we can take all day to back the
That,
equipment.
yeah,
So,
yeah, all due respect, I'm not
Yeah.
concerned after the fire, it's like getting
Right.
to it, yeah, okay.
Him too.
Yeah, as long as I'm not backing up the truck, so.
And you mentioned, Tom, we do have several properties where instead of the concrete or asphalt, it is like a drivable,
A grass paver, so it's grass paved two, I believe, is what it is. I've had it in several municipalities that have allowed it. There's different weights that it can be rated for, and it's used quite often for fire lanes too. So it's not a obtrusive path or driveway.
it's generally more expensive, so Kevin will be mad that we brought this up, but we just want to make sure that it looks nice for residents.
I understand that, you don't really want to put a
Yeah,
paved road
right.
there.
If you're
trying to
have
provide
to.
everything you can for your
It's a
residents.
260-foot long building for a ring road on it seems unnecessary.
I mean, your building's how long? 200,
260.
260,
260, that was what it was.
279? You got fire exits, north and south end of the building, nothing in the middle. If one gets blocked, it's a long way to go.
I understand what you're saying, I just know I've never been required to do a ring road around a building this small before.
Francis, if I could clarify, so tonight, they're asking for is the conditional zoning certificate. So this is not site plan approval, there's a lot of details that will still have to be worked out. To what level, I mean, I know in your memo, you recommended that it could be approved, but should stipulate the items in your memo, that are gonna need to be addressed. We don't necessarily have to have agreement or have to lay down demands or anything, but there's gonna be some level of these things being addressed. I guess that's not necessarily a contingency on the approval, is it, or?
Yeah, I would, if the commission's inclined, I would structure it as a approval subject to, and note the items of concern, and we'll work through those during the site planning process. I mean, look, you can approve the use, and if we can't come to a conclusion on the fire access, then, the applicant has to make a decision what to do. My inclination is to use grass pavers. They're rated for fire trucks, and make it the minimum distance as possible, recognizing that, stuff costs money. We don't need to be too overly crazy, but what the fire department needs in terms of distance needs to be accommodated. And I do think it can be accommodated on, on a grass paver, which is a much more aesthetic product than asphalt or concrete. And I also think, if the detention basins are a problem, I wanted to mention this earlier, it costs money, but everything costs money. You can put some of that underground too. It's not, necessarily a huge site, it's an awkward site, so you're working with a limited area to put a lot of stuff in. But that's the creative site planning piece. The use is the issue tonight, and, from, in my opinion, I do believe that they've demonstrated that the conditional use requirements have substantially been met. I think there's some outstanding issues, and planning commission members raised some concern about that other development that's currently under construction not be maybe taken into account into the analysis. I've looked at that, and I don't know if this is the full report. I suspect it's much larger than this, because they charge by the page. Yeah, so, it may be included in that, we don't know. It's not included in what is in this executive summary.
I guess I'd also like, if we're gonna return back to that point, understand a little more what type of project it is.
Well, we talked about it last time, it's a similar product to what it sounds like you're offering here based on the information we have, but your market study group should have included that.
Well, if it included in like assisted living, memory care, any kind of congregate services.
I don't believe it was, there's multiple tiers to that whole development, there's multiple pieces and parts to it, so part of it would fall underneath what you're offering here from what I understood and read about it, so.
Okay. Do you have the name of it?
That's
Said it's in
trying to
Saginaw?
find it, yeah.
Corner of Route 82 and Carter Road is the location. I'm not sure of the name of the new development. Chairman, yeah, if I could, I get to step out, I got a text. I'll
Go ahead.
try to be back, but I'm not sure if I will be. Brian is my proxy.
It's a 55 and older housing development.
I think. Come on, Akron Beacon Journal.
It was approved,
Parkview Senior Living Project, I think. Parkview is all one word.
144 units.
What's that?
What is it called?
I think it's Parkview.
So because this is another question I have too, because this is age restricted at 55 and older, I'm assuming that everyone within that unit, specific unit, has to be 55 or older, correct? They can't have
Or is
someone
it just
living
one
there
resident?
under 55 years of age?
They can, and that's actually the way your code is written too.
Okay.
It was like you have to have one person that's 55, and if someone gets married,
Yeah.
and that person isn't 55,
It's fine, just wanted to ask.
Is that new Parkview development, is that affordable or is that market?
All I found was so far is an Akron Beacon Journal article from
I'm not sure.
March
Yeah.
18th, 2023. I'm looking through it. 101 one-story units to be built east of Brentwood with 2 access points on Carter Road, 39 units northwest of Brentwood, and an outlet attached to Brentwood's westernmost driveway along Route 82. Zone commercial, but senior residential units are permitted after the Township Zoning Commission established a senior housing district in the zoning code in October 2021.
I would go back to your market study folks, because I think that's something they should have caught and picked up on, like we talked about.
Kevin?
Yes.
I don't know, and I brought this up with Mr. Wallinger. Why are we worried about the financial success of these applicants, whether they make it or not? You know, on Girl Scout Way, they're building a 4-story hotel. I don't remember us dwelling on whether that's going to be a success or not. And we had a car wash, and it didn't look like. Why are we dwelling on it? I don't think that's our business, is it, to be citing, well, this might not be a financial success because there's one down in Sagamore Hills that's very similar. I mean, I live in a 55 and over. I didn't know if that was any of our business as a planning commission to be saying, well, you know, the competition, you better look at the competition around here. Why do we care?
I believe it has to do with the conditional zoning certificates.
It's one of the requirements?
Well, I do think it's under the purview of the planning commission to ask for a demonstration of a need for any conditional use. In this case, it was talked about in the last meeting to demonstrate that need.
Is there
to
in the
look
code
at-
something about a financial aspect of this?
I don't think anyone's saying anything about money. I don't know if they're successful
Well,
with money,
they're saying
I
it
don't care.
might not be a success, you
Well,
know.
what we want to know
So
is
that-
there a demonstrated need for this use? Will this use absorb, or is it going to sit there and be idle and not absorb units? And so I think it's a fair question of this commission to ask, what's the absorption? What's the current market yield? Are those current market units, are they absorbed? What's the rate of
Well, if you say it's
absorption?
relevant, okay. it's
Yeah, I think it's fair to ask. My suspicion is that the numbers are probably negligible, and it's fair to ask for it to be certainly included to see what that, if it pushes the needle in one way or another, but my suspicion is it won't.
My concern wasn't financial viability, it was just taxing fire and EMS. Right now, the city of Macedonia has an agreement, and they staff equipment provided by Sagamore Hills Township and Northfield Center, and they're pretty much at their capacity already. And now the Sagamore Hills facility is going to come online with a lot more residents than what they're proposing here. And then if this comes online, while they may be small percentages and all that, it's just going to continue to add up, and I'm concerned about that. That's future expense, or buying new ambulances, trying to staff them when it's hard to find qualified staff, that kind of stuff.
If I could just respond to that a
Sure.
little bit, because that's certainly a valid concern. We also have worked with our local fire departments, putting service coordination in their facilities or in their sites to help reduce even the community of the frequent 911 callers, et cetera, and that has also helped us. I tie the bridge to that, knowing that service coordinators do make that impact. Some of the data is probably hard to show because once Betty stops calling 911, it's hard to know if she was the reason, the service coordinator was the reason she stopped calling or what happened. But many of these preventable EMS calls are exactly what that service coordinator is starting to target. It's the, I'm not going to be transported, but I need someone to come help me get out of bed. Those are not the circumstances that are happening in our buildings with that proactive service coordinator. But they're valid concerns. And that data is hard to demonstrate, but I would argue that that service coordinator is actually benefiting the community, and then the services around the community are also impacted as well.
And you put those at all of your sites?
Service coordinators?
Yes.
We have a fair number of sites that have service coordination through our HUD properties. This site is going to be built in with their operations budget. We do have sites that do not have service coordination, and we know that those do have higher, we don't have data for it because there's not a service coordinator there, but we know that that is some of the concerns that they have, is that the seniors are not getting all the services that they could be accessing.
May I ask a question?
Please.
How did you determine to do this as a income adjusted product? How was that determination made?
Well, that's what we do. I mean, we're in the business of providing housing for people of varying income levels. So we look and see where we think there's demand and where we think we could be successful. As we mentioned, we do offer some market rate housing, but it's primarily in central Ohio around sort of the home base, if you will, where we have sort of the most, how do I put it, concentration of meal service needs, housekeeping service needs. So we haven't expanded it out beyond sort of central Ohio for that product type. But we've been offering affordable housing that's restricted to folks that make less than 100% of the area median income for 60 years, actually. So it's really our mission to provide housing for seniors where we most need it.
What's the, I'm sorry, I don't understand the central Ohio reference.
So our company is based in central Ohio.
Understood.
Yeah.
But what, you said that's where you do the market?
The market rate housing.
So not restricted based on income?
Yeah, we have a number of properties that surround it that have, they're all our senior living properties. I should say primarily, we have a few scattered that have some just apartment style market rate units, but that's where most of our market rate housing's in assisted living, skilled nursing, memory care units.
Oh,
They're on congregate care camps.
Understood, that's the difference.
Yeah, it's a different product type.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's.
I thought it was
We provide a lot of
independent
different
living
types of
units were primarily, so your independent living units are
We have
primarily,
those in 25 states.
and those are primarily or substantially income-based units?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
they are. I mean, to different
That-
degrees.
I didn't understand that. Thank you.
Not to bring it back to the Parkview development, but I did want to mention, he was just pointing out in the Akron Beacon Journal, it looks like those are all 2-bedroom units, at least in part of the development.
Villas, too.
Yeah.
Garages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they families as well as seniors or only?
No, it's all 55 and older. It did state that.
It looks like a different product type.
So probably not in direct competition with these affordable 1-bedroom, much smaller units.
More in competition with the Redmond.
Going back to the service coordinators though, is that something, how does that get determined then? You say you put it in your budget, but like.
I can speak to it on this project. We are mandated on this project by the Ohio Housing Finance Agency to provide a service coordinator for at least the next 15 years.
At each facility, you're saying, or?
No, in this, the rules of procuring financing change all the
Yeah.
time. So keeping up with them, this year we have to provide them. It's a condition of
We are always advocating for that, so just the piggyback off of that, Kevin, we get it funded off of your HUD. And HUD has not released service coordinator grants in over a decade. They currently are, but it's limited. So we do advocate and we're having legislative support in Ohio and in other states to try to get HUD to help fund more service coordination. This isn't one of those funding opportunities, but as Kevin said, it's mandated. And more organizations are doing that because they are showing that there's an effective that will address the needs. Does that help answer your question?
Did that answer your question?
Just to describe, I'm sorry we're bouncing around from topic to topic here, but the Parkview, our market study analysts would not have included this because it's not a comparable property. I mean, the units are starting at 1,400 square feet, 1,381 or 1,300, excuse me, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage units. These are villas as opposed to apartment buildings.
So I guess, kind of going back to what we're trying to accomplish, the conditional zoning certificate. Obviously, there's some issues that I think our staff here has brought up that maybe, we're not going to get through all the details of them tonight, and we don't need to. They will need to be addressed. I was trying to make a little list of them, things that we should consider. I don't want to cut anybody short if they've still got questions or thoughts, things they want to discuss. And this is, certainly not limited to just these. There will be other things that will come up when we're doing the detailed site plan evaluation. But, one is potentially update the market study. I mean, I know everybody here is kind of Googling this Parkview thing, but I'd like you to look into it. Make sure, there's not portions of that thing that are similar. But spend a little time just looking into it, and it's beyond just a quick Googling here in the Akron Beacon Journal article. Dig a little bit. That parking issues / the variance. There's whether you get your variance or you don't. If you get it, what you've got shown is probably good to go. If you don't get it, the things that were discussed and your parking will have to be addressed more fully. Access road details talked about tonight. Sounds like things can be accomplished, finished, but that will need to be addressed. Fire access, what that becomes, might be your engineer working with the city a little bit more to figure that out, what that should be. I think those 4 are kind of the big ones: the market study, parking, variance, access road, fire access. Was there other things that we're needing that we wanted to specifically mention? But again, it would not be limited to just those things.
Yeah, we talked about the consolidation plat. It's a technical issue, and then I think that, if the commission's intention is to contingently approve the use, I would also tie it to the request at hand. So a lot of documentation's been submitted tonight to demonstrate a need for this single 54-unit residential building, generally in this configuration. If the use expands or changes, they would have to come back for a revised or a new application on a conditional zoning certificate, just to be clear for the record.
Okay.
Just one other thing, sorry to bring this back up, but the parking, just before you go to try to get a variance, because Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, if this is already included in that, but does that include the parking for any staff or visitors in that amount? Okay, yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure before you went down that path and all of a sudden realize later on you're short or it doesn't become an issue then.
Which, I can only assume that that's why 1.5 spaces versus 1. The way the code's written is it's 1.5 spaces per unit.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that some of that over 1 takes into account, as the young lady said, doctors groups that come to the property. So you're gonna have people coming there, you're gonna have staff. And so some of that 1-to-1 and above to 1.5 per unit is staff, visitors, things like that. I'm assuming these folks have family that want to come and see them, so there's probably a greater demand than 1-to-1, I would suspect, but that's yours to demonstrate.
right, so we've beat on this, oh, go ahead, something else you want to.
Yeah, this is getting into the math behind the market study, which is included in included with the packet that was provided in the executive summary, but it describes the capture rate. I'm sorry if that's familiar to folks, but the capture rates are extremely low here. So median, we're looking at a capture rate of 2.7% with the 54 units. If you were to add another 150 and make that 200, you're still a low capture rate of about 10%. So I guess my point is the depth of this market is pretty vast. I think it's what Mr. Franz had said earlier, that adding even 140 more apartments is not going to be, it's not going to move the needle when it comes to the demand and the need that exists today and into the future.
And unfortunately, that's not just in this market segment, it's just a growing need across the country. Those aged 55 and over, and how best to provide housing for them.
Okay. Well, I guess, is there anything else, Joe, or anything else you guys want to mention? So I guess, at this time, I'm going to make a motion, but similar to what I was saying, I want to list off some stuff that I think needs to be specifically noted that will need to be addressed. Again, it's not a limiting thing. I'm sorry, Mr. Cromer, did you dying to give a presentation on the traffic? I'm good with it.
Only if anybody's got any questions.
Yeah,
Thank you for
traffic engineer that provided the data basically kind of showed that there's not a lot of these peak hours of traffic associated with one of these sites. But so I guess I'll make a motion to approve the conditional zoning certificate contingent on, at a minimum, these following items being addressed. Market study update is investigated relating to the Sagamore development. Take my time. Parking issues and the variance. Access road details. Fire access. Consolidation plat. And also note that if the layout or the use would change significantly, the conditional zoning certificate would need to be revisited. That's one motion. Is there a second? Give it another chance.
Well, I'll second it. Okay. Nobody seconded it.
Okay, we'll see if we were stopping there. Is there any more discussion on the motion? This is not, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I think I heard you as it related to the expansion issue, that included the use. So if the use expanded or changed or altered in any way that's been presented through the various data sets, let's call it, that were provided to document this particular use, that would necessitate the need to come back to Planning Commission for an amended or new application for a conditional zoning certificate. And I guess I would also just point out, just for the record, that the duly noticed and properly noticed public hearing for this conditional zoning certificate occurred at a prior meeting of the Planning Commission, and that was discussed. It was opened up to the public, and no members of the public came and spoke for or against it, and the case was discussed and properly continued to this evening. Therefore, the need to publish a second public hearing was unnecessary.
Thank you for the clarification. Committee members, any more discussion on this side? Do a roll call. Susan, please.
Mr. Westbrook?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenhurst?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
So I just want to state, I appreciate you guys guys definitely demonstrate there's a demand for this in the area, and I appreciate that. It was a good discussion on how you promote better health, all that stuff, but I still feel it's hard to see that in the data that we discussed and that you provided. I don't know if it's even possible, so I'm not saying that you didn't provide. I don't know if it's even possible. I'm just concerned about the future and the potential to tax EMS services. I know you guys can't control what's going in Sagamore Hills. I appreciate that you've looked that up quickly online to see what it is. It's different, but there's even more residents going there. So for those reasons and what I stated on the record, I'm voting no.
Thank you. So the conditional zoning certificate will pass. And so we move on to the next steps, and there's a few things, obviously those things will need to be addressed, but that's not limited to what will be, discussed in the next reviews.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sorry for the time share.
Long discussion.
In a hot room.
Like we said, we can all say, we really fast, right? We've already talked about it.
You kind of hashed it all out. So we still have one more agenda.
Or two, yeah, one more.
One more.
Get out of here.
All right. Ground up, is that-
Round up.
Ground up, is that you guys there? Yes, sir. Make your way up to the front here.
Thanks for waiting.
If you don't mind, we're gonna take like a 2-minute break real quick. Take a 2-minute recess here.
Welcome back.
ground up, constructing a storage building at 1411 East Twinsburg Road. Would you guys like to give a quick overview of what you're
Yes,
proposing?
so we changed from the original drawings that we submitted because of some water and grading things that we have noticed throughout that week or two monsoon that we had, right? So we felt that this was gonna be a better way to go as far as stormwater and everything else like that, being able to channel everything way easier. I have a handful of copies here for everybody to pass around. So instead of having the building in front of the, or behind the house, it's gonna be in front, which the house will be used for offices. And then we're gonna be expanding. We got money.
Okay.
So then we're gonna pretty much move what we had in the back up to the front. It'll be way more appealing, A, and B, as far as the storm and storm utilities, all that stuff, it'll just be way easier to navigate all that stuff versus, because the septic's actually behind the house. So everything will be able to come forward downhill versus making things go uphill.
So I guess, what is the business, what is ground up?
It's landscape.
Okay.
It's not landscape.
And we'll get into it with Mr. Francis' comments, but is the intention to use the house as part of the office?
Yes.
Or, okay, so this is definitely a business use.
Yes.
Okay, and, knowing that we're just getting the stuff tonight, they may have to further consider it depending on what
Understood.
discussion's going on, but maybe first turn it over to Mr. France for your thoughts, or at least your memo. Think about how this affects that or not.
Yeah, I'm just quickly,
Yeah, if you want to
yeah,
take a
so,
look at this.
yeah, so I would just generally say, I don't know what your use, I mean, I know what your use is. It's pretty easy to figure out when you start to track you down on the internet.
Right.
But it's it's a residential house essentially that had been non-conforming over time, meaning the zoning code changed.
Correct.
And it's an industrial district. It was a house. So over time, that use of residence just became, let's call it void or
Right.
eliminated. You're not looking to use it for a residential home?
Correct.
Okay, so you're looking to convert the house to offices. Are you currently in there now?
No.
Okay, so you'll have to go through a process with the building department for your, what's called your use group.
Right.
It was built as a residence, now it's gonna be used as a business or office use.
Correct.
There's building code things, you're gonna have to work with this guy. Nino is our building commissioner, and so he'll guide you through that process. That's a whole separate issue outside of here. So for a use issue, good, it's better that you're looking at this as a business use. It will be, I can't evaluate it tonight based on that, I'll just, be very frank with you. But I will say, just at the onset, because it's a business use and because it's a non-residential application, looks like you're proposing hard surface probably.
So that was gonna be one of our questions. According to the city's code, it is our understanding that we do need to put either concrete or asphalt as the driveway. Two questions we have, because I have almost 10 years between 3 different cities with the codes and everything like that, between Twinsburg, Aurora, and now Macedonia. Would we have a distance, and would we have a time frame of when that would need to be completed? Because I know that next door at Sagamore Soils, they do have the asphalt. I just don't know what the guidelines are as far as the time frame and the distance off the road that we need to go.
Yeah, so that's an administrative question.
Okay.
So this commission will tell you that it has to be hard surface. You need to account for stormwater management. It looks like, there's no scale really to this, but it looks like it's a pretty sizable area we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Your driveway leaning back will have to be hard surface. The whole thing's hard surface. You're a
Correct.
non-residential use.
Right.
And so you're gonna have to take that into account. You'll have to get a design professional involved. and they'll develop a site plan. So I'll just put a push pin there real quick. Appreciate you guys coming, want you to be in business here. But to do so, there are standards and requirements you'll have to meet before this commission can act on your application. So you'll have to get a design professional involved.
Are we talking A or B?
No review, architecture review board, it's all done right here with the planning commission.
Gotcha.
What I'm talking about, you need a civil engineer, you need somebody to design your stormwater management system.
Okay.
You're gonna design, they'll design what's the thickness of your asphalt or concrete, then where's the stormwater going and how's it being accommodated,
Grading plan,
grading
boundary
plan,
survey.
boundary survey, the whole, the enchilada, it's, I don't mean to scare you, but you're gonna spend some money.
No, I understand, and it's essentially starting from scratch because we did understand when we were, was our understanding purchasing the property that I think it was back in 58 or 80s, when it got rezoned 85, I think it was rezoned to GI. Because it was our understanding now that we're currently at, that's our issue right now is what it's zoned.
Insofar as,
Parking trucks outside.
oh, so you are gonna have outdoor what about outdoor storage of materials and things?
As of right now, we're looking to get the structure up and locate our business there. And then down the road, when we're ready to do those next steps of if we wanted to do on-sites like material storage or anything, we would reevaluate. But to be able to run currently we buy our materials from a supplier, so he stocks it. So we don't have to worry about that right now. And with the supplier next door to this property, we would go that route until we're ready to kind of replan that next step.
Phase, yeah.
And the trucks are, what type of trucks are they?
Pickup trucks. The biggest that we have is a Chevy 4500 dump truck.
It's like medium duty.
Okay.
We don't have any CDL units.
No CDL.
Yeah, so, I do think that that's part and parcel with outdoor storage, those
Right.
vehicles. So we just have to evaluate, and that'll involve that site plan. It's gonna be drawn to scale, and then we can evaluate. I mean, it's a deep parcel, so more than likely it's fine. But we don't know that till we have some demonstration of what fine is. So you'll have to engage a design professional. Again, most likely that's a civil engineer is what I'd recommend.
Okay.
And then you just have to go through this chapter 1169, section 116904, and then go through the parking requirements, which are outlined in the code in 11, whatever that number is. I have these things going through my head all the time. 117111. So if you engage a civil engineer who, just ask around who's worked in Macedonia, and these guys can probably give you some names of people they can't recommend, but people who come through the door, do plans, and then have a plan done, and then you'll be able to come back to the planning commission and get your approval. Likely, I don't see any issue with it, knowing now that it's a business use, but you're gonna have to get some plans pulled together for them to be able to act on.
Fair enough.
Mr. Shaw, do you have? Yeah, I guess a few things that I was gonna mention. Brian's exactly right. You do have to engage a design professional, civil engineer, to help you through this process, provide all the submittals that you're gonna have to provide. He also touched on one thing I was gonna ask is we have a home on the property right now. Obviously, you guys are a commercial business. Is the home occupied? Is there anyone living in the house? So it's a vacant house?
Yes.
Okay, because we had that issue on Ohio State waterproof
Oh, yeah.
from a few years ago.
And it's
Yeah,
been
remember
vacant.
that one?
My understanding, it's been vacant for some time now, is that correct?
Since we've owned it, I don't know what it
Which
was.
is January, I think you purchased it in,
February.
you formed your
I think we
LLC in
closed
January? Okay.
Yeah, we were working on it. I think we started working on it like right after the new year.
Yeah.
Um,
But from what I looked at, it's my understanding it's been a year or more. So I think it's lost its non-conformity. So you don't want to use it as residential.
No, we don't want anybody living where we're
So-
just putting.
Yeah, nobody can live in at this point.
Yeah, nobody can move in there is what
Yeah.
Mr. July
No.
said.
Yeah, which is not what we want.
Yeah.
Honestly, the house was just kind of like a bonus, like
Yeah.
office space,
Yeah.
and we know we gotta do everything for the fire code and everything with the exit signs and making sure it's for business, but yeah, the house was just kind of there. You know, we just wanted the land.
We bought it for the land, we didn't buy it for the house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe you there. So, yeah, the plan is extremely preliminary at this point, and I get it, you guys are just getting started. You saw my comments on my memo. We need to address wetlands potentially on the property, stormwater management, some sort of detention pond or whatever, all per the code. I also touched on driveway and parking lot surface. Brian touched on it a little bit too. I think for the purpose of this meeting, we have to tell you that everything needs to be a hard surface, asphalt or concrete. There's no distance or limits or anything like that, and we have to say that it all needs to be paved as part of the development, not, you know, we'll do it in the future.
Okay. What's your setback?
It's pretty far.
I'm about to say, that's far.
From the front, a lot, 500 feet, who knows?
At
For
least.
this building, where we have it designed on this paper?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so the house was 800 feet off the road.
okay,
So we're probably 600.
all right. So you're probably looking at 2 hydrants, 2 yard hydrants.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Within 300 feet is the city distance now, is a city ordinance. And for new construction, needed 300 feet.
I didn't think about that, glad you said that.
Good call, Rich.
You are it is connected to municipal water?
So that was gonna be my question. There is a water line at the street. I did get a hold of Cleveland Water. They are they're having a hard time delineating because it is literally on the line. So I can't do compasses. So the house side of the property, if you're looking at the house, the right side of the property, that's the Twinsburg Township Creek right there.
Correct.
And then the closest utilities actually ties into what is, I believe, the township or the city of Twinsburg's utilities. But because it's obviously Macedonia, they said that we would need to coordinate with like 4 different people to figure out if we wanted to tie into those utilities, who gets that, I guess, process.
You mean to go east from your property and tie into utilities in Twinsburg Township?
If that would be the closest tie-in, then yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, that appears to take you across multiple other properties.
Well, they were saying behind it, so I think
Oh,
it's Case
behind.
Parkway.
Bavaria.
Yeah, Bavaria.
No, that if you went straight behind, you're still in Macedonia.
Okay, that's what
Yeah.
they didn't know.
Okay, you mean go due north?
Yeah. 'cause that's
Yeah,
what they
well,
said.
you would still have to cross somebody else's property to get to Bavaria
Right.
Road, so you'd have to work with that property owner to
Correct.
have an easement and access.
I think the hydrant's on your side of the street anyways, right?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think it is.
And there is
Driveway.
It's
Macedonia
like
water
literally
across the
3
street.
feet off the driveway right now.
Well, could they pull the building closer to the street? I mean, not knowing what the setbacks are.
They can't go in front of the front face of the main building.
Well, this would be the new main building.
The revised plan shows that they would be in front of their main building.
So we can't build in front of the house.
Oh, yeah, so
Um,
the house is your principal structure, this is the accessory. It's hard to tell, I mean, if I just looked at that the scale would tell me that, you know, the accessory building dwarfs the house.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, so
What if
that,
they demo the house?
yeah, you could,
Just gonna ask.
you could demo the house and make
What's
the
that?
storage.
I didn't want to
building.
ask that question.
But we could bring it forward if the house was gone.
If the house is gone, you could, and you could include some office space inside your storage building, you know, make it, you know, that, we'll spend your money however you want. But you
You just
can't,
gotta tell us how to spend it.
Well,
That's what we're here
that's,
for.
that's why I was asking if you could pull it forward, then they could get themselves closer to the street, not have to put in 2
Right.
fire hydrants, cause
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you're either putting in 2
Right.
fire
Yeah,
Yeah, your
hydrants or you're gonna
driveway
demo the
becomes
house.
expensive.
I'm pretty sure the
I mean-
setback to the original plans is like 1,200 feet.
The property goes 1,200 feet back.
No, the property was like 1,600.
Okay.
yeah, so what these guys are saying is you should run some analysis of the demo's 10 grand, you know, 10, 12
Right.
grand to demo the thing, but it may be cheaper to
2
do
hydrants
that.
is 10 grand.
Yeah, it's
That's
cheaper
what
to
I
do
mean.
that,
Yeah.
pull that thing forward
Yeah.
to the, you know, closer to the setback line that's established by code, which is probably 100 feet. I'd have to look,
Right.
but
Probably
you're gonna save a ton in driveway,
Right.
grading,
grading, water line, you name it.
sanitary
a-
connection.
Does anybody know if that's a 10-inch water main or if it's an 8-inch?
I'm pretty sure it's probably.
I think it's a 12 on,
12?
on Twinsburg Road. I think it's a 12-inch main.
I
yeah.
gotcha.
And then, so just kind of basing, let's say the building gets moved closer to the road. For future growth, since there's water at the building, would we still need to do hydrants as far back as we end up building down the road? Just future thought.
Because that's the thing, is that if we're gonna have hydrants, if we need a hydrants on the property, then it doesn't really make too much sense to keep the septic system, or to keep the well system.
Is a house on the well, or is that a
Yes,
house?
the house is well and septic, which we were told that the septic needs to be swapped out for an NDS, what do you call it? MPDS?
Basically an aeration system.
Yeah.
The soil didn't test to be a leach field.
We had some inspections.
So there is
septic system
sewer,
already
public
there.
sewer on Twinsburg Road.
There is public
Yes.
sewer.
Question is, how far, well, depends how far your proposed building is
Correct.
from Twinsburg Road. If you are beyond a certain distance, EPA will let you install a septic system. Not sure exactly what that distance is.
It's 200 or 300 feet, depending on local code. We don't have a local code that says you have to connect. Like the 208 plan would identify that. I don't know what the city's 208 plan is, but typically if the sewer's out in front of your property within 200
Yeah.
feet, and I always interpret that as frontage feet, not distance from the road, then you have to connect to the sanitary sewer. I don't know what the city's.
Truthfully, we rather would tie into.
You're better off.
Yeah.
The whole, this whole
Right.
discussion
I'd rather
is,
tie into
I
it.
don't wanna say it's silly, but it's a little bit, you wanna tie in.
As long as
city
it's
sewer.
there, we want to tie into it, but
Yes.
we weren't able to figure out if there was city sewer right
There
on
is,
that.
it's on the south side of Twinsburg Road.
Okay.
Nobody would give us the answers until we sat down at this table, essentially, which is why we're still here.
And I don't know, do you guys, I don't know what your budget is, how you're funding it, but you may want to reach out to the mayor's office. I mean, it's a business. You guys are growing. It's
Right.
great. You're young guys. You're probably going to grow the business. There may be some opportunities through SBA loans and things to maybe get lower interest rates, because your project's going to increase in cost as you do some of these things, which are probably much better things for you to do in the long run.
Absolutely. There's no
But
question on that.
there's ways to maybe help defray some of that, so you should maybe reach out to the mayor's office and talk to the mayor about what economic development programs may be there for you.
It's a good idea, Brian.
To answer your question about, I think you brought up the fact that you guys kept expanding. I guess my thought there and recommendation might be is to just start to run that water line. It can be stopped, capped, and then tagged on to as you go further back, but then just making sure you bring it large enough to that point so that if you did keep adding on, need to add a fire hydrant, you're not having to go and tear up and add a water line.
Okay.
Do the same work twice.
Yeah, that's essentially what you would have to do.
Okay.
Pretty much a minimum 8 inch.
8 inch, yeah. That was gonna be my next question, what's the water line services?
Yeah.
I've done it, it's not fun, but I've done it. I've done
And that's just if you guys are future, I mean, you mentioned potentially adding more buildings, that would be the reason.
That's
why-
our plan.
That
We
would
don't
be the
plan to
reason
go
why.
anywhere. We've moved shops so much over our growth over the last, 6 to 8 years. And it's just like we outgrow every building, so we just want to make sure that what we do with this building, we can keep going, so we don't have to find another plot of land and do it all over.
We haven't even been in our current location, I think, a year and a half yet.
So
I think it's been out been a year.
You only do landscaping, or do you do construction as well?
we do like hardscaping too, like patios, outdoor kitchens, pergolas, all that
Okay.
kind of stuff.
But you're not building buildings?
No. No.
Not yet.
We're not carpenters.
That's next up.
Yeah.
So I guess what we were kind of going with this is that we're kind of stuff, there's a lot more that they need to do on their end. I mean, I'm guessing we're gonna end up continuing this to a future meeting. Do we need to set specific, or do we, because there's kind of a lot of unknown, it could take months.
Yeah, you may want to put this into your inactive agenda. So this is just kind of a technicality for us, because we typically will continue the item to a date certain. You're gonna need to hire a design professional. There's gonna be a lot of work goes into it. I mean, I don't know what you were thinking timeline, but.
As soon as possible.
I was gonna say.
We're gonna try
Yeah,
to push this
so
as
I
fast as we
assumed
can.
you were gonna say that. Yeah, I mean, I'm just being honest with you guys, you got, it's a great project.
cut out for us.
But you got your work cut out for you, and you just, I would get a design professional engaged right away. You know, there's some good small, like, you know, I call mom and pop design professionals around, it's probably better for you than,
Actually have a few clients in the industry that we've kind of spoken to kind of
Good.
have in our back pocket if we needed them, and they're
Yeah.
willing to help us out, so.
yeah, so I'd talk to them, and you've got some work, so I would put it to the inactive agenda until the applicant provides new, because otherwise you're just gonna keep.
Have to keep continuing.
Yeah, or, yeah, so you could withdraw, but then there's probably new application fees, and I'd hate to have to pay that stuff.
Yeah, it could just be continued.
Yeah, so put it into the inactive agenda, that way they don't have to pay again.
Okay. Okay, was there anything else, anybody else wanted to?
That's the
mention?
best thing you've said yet.
I mean, we were understand, you guys are young guys, you're doing great, doing a business, and every cost counts, so just trying to help out a little bit.
Is there anything else that kind of sticks out for you guys for a new commercial building going up in your city that we should keep in mind when we're having these designs done? You know, the 100 feet off the road, that kind of stuff. Is there anything else that, you know, really right off the bat to help us? That way, once this design's done, we can try to, you know, move this.
Yeah, I think you were proposing a metal building.
Hmm?
Yeah, so that's probably an issue, so the city's design architect will review it. And so there's citywide general standards, and I can look real quick, I don't believe. I don't think metal's approvable. Yeah, so following styles and materials are inappropriate and shall be discouraged.
So this is it.
Generally, yeah, unacceptable. Okay, pre-engineered metal buildings, pole barns, metal-sided buildings are not permissible. Yeah, so I mean, maybe there's some,
structure.
yeah, so I mean, maybe there's some room to work, you know, where it's a combination of materials.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't think that, honestly, that the steel structures are that less inexpensive than some of the, you know, sort of fiber cement type material. I don't know, Mr. Wallenhurst, you tell me I'm crazy, but
No, you're right, the metal, because of the cost of metal, but there is like, you can get like cement panels, fiber cement panels, basically, so it just goes up as one sheet,
Right.
almost like a piece of,
It's all the modern buildings that are going up nowadays.
yeah,
basically.
so you can kind of go that route, and that would be, you know, get as large of a panel, and then if you have to combine two panels, just put a piece of trim there, make it kind of, you know, aesthetically pleasing. I think that would all be fine to kind of do.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, that's what we're going for, is the aesthetically pleasing part, because it's obviously our business is gonna be ran there, so
Right.
we definitely plan on making the property look a lot better.
And the metal with the salt stuff, I'm assuming your guys' trucks have salt in them and stuff like that, and you're gonna salt the parking lot. So over time, the metal buildings, while they look nice initially, our area just beats them up
Just
pretty
down
roughly.
flat.
So, you know, going with a different material will give you more of a longevity of a building. And hopefully not too much more expensive, but
It is what it is. Like I said, we're not building a temporary place here. We're building home.
Yeah.
You know.
yeah, it's all the more reason I'd say really honestly call the mayor's office and let, you know, introduce yourself, and he's very business friendly, and, you know, there may be some assistance with lower interest loans. I mean, again, I don't know how you're financing it, but there's all sorts of ways to get creative with helping out to, you know, bridge some of the cost gaps.
Right.
Okay.
Kevin, are we gonna table this?
I think we're
have
gonna move
kinda
it to
get
the
going.
inactive agenda.
Yeah.
And then we can bring it back easily, so
Yeah.
I guess that requires a motion. Is that-
Yeah, a motion, and then Susan will record that in the minutes, and we'll put it physically on the agenda as an inactive item, so then it stays in front of our eyes.
Right.
And then you can, again, just coordinate with mayor's office and Mr. Monaco here in the building department, and they'll get you going in the right direction.
Fantastic.
So I'll make a motion to move this item to the inactive agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks, gentlemen.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
for your time. Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
The only other thing, you mentioned that for you guys, sorry for this. Seven Brew has, the applicant requested to withdraw from tonight's agenda. Does that require us to make a motion to take it off the agenda, or is it just?
Did they ask to withdraw or continue?
They continued it to the next meeting.
So I would
Okay.
accept the applicant's, motion to accept the applicant's request and do a roll call.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion to accept the applicant's request to continue this item to the next meeting.
I'd second that.
All right. Roll call, Susan?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenhurst?
Yes.
Mr. Westbrook?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Meski?
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, just for the record, the next meeting is a little bit of an anomaly, so that agenda, I think, is already set, because I know I did the
Oh,
reviews.
because we're
for
It
late.
is.
So when we say next agenda, it's the June meeting.
No, they didn't
July.
specify that, so.
But they missed the cutoff.
They missed the cutoff, but I mean,
I guess are they not submitting anything additional?
Yeah.
that I know of, I don't think so.
So is it okay if they go on the next agenda if there's nothing
I would have
new?
to send all that information out, so it's really up to you if you want to receive it at a later date if they have more info that they're submitting. Or do you want to just wait until June?
I would think if they wanna go, I'm leaving my lane here, but I think if they wanna be on the May agenda, they can't submit any additional information, because they've missed the cutoff.
The reason for,
Yeah, or certainly.
the reason for wanting to continue is the traffic engineer couldn't be here.
Correct.
Oh.
So it
then-
wasn't that they wanted to do more work, I don't think.
Then they could be on this meeting in May.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All right, and,
We should have told you that.
No, I didn't know.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because, next meeting's coming up in
yeah,
4 days, it seems like.
all right. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think, were you dealing with a sign issue tonight as well as a
Oh,
miscellaneous
I'm sorry.
item?
Yes,
So
yes,
you haven't adjourned yet.
yes. We haven't adjourned yet.
You didn't take a vote.
We're
so-
still here.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yes, under our miscellaneous, we've got a sign that you were patiently waiting for a long time for Chase
Oh my
Bank.
gosh, yeah, sorry.
No, this is,
I missed it.
It should be
North
pretty, yes, North
Yeah.
Rec, I'm sorry.
so it should be pretty easy. So anyways, we were here in March, got it approved. They installed the sign, as you see. Black on brown, so they were requesting if we can change that sign to white letters.
This is just not popping like.
Yeah, they're not seeing it. So, yeah, obviously somebody dropped the ball on that design.
I kind of noticed that driving by.
I did.
I didn't see
Which
this.
sign?
Yeah, so corporate,
Oh,
of
the
course,
rack.
wants
You
it to
show
pop.
them.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
No, I
Yes,
didn't
that's
see
what it'll
that.
look like.
That would be the new one.
No physical change at all to the
Nothing,
letters,
just-
they're
That's what it
simply
was,
changing the
yeah.
color.
Okay.
Exact same thing, changing the color,
There
yeah.
goes the price of that shirt that I was
I
gonna.
was just,
You want the white one?
Yes,
Yeah. A little more.
Anybody?
and the front sign would stay the same. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going.
Nobody has a problem?
No.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we approve the sign to, on the side of the tower to be white lettering as opposed to black.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank
Appreciate it,
you.
thank you.
Motion
Just
to,
the tower, right?
motion to adjourn?
Yeah, go ahead.
I motion we adjourn.
It was just the tower, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Is there anything to sign?
I'll close up the
don't
side of the room if somebody wants to take the other side over.
Motion to adjourn, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.